Hey everyone! Today's video I actually wanted to kind of review this, let you take a look inside, and then I decided I will pull this book out because this is the only other book that I have that is kind of similar. And this one is just for watercolors, which was what attracted me in it, or about it in the first place. And then this one you can see is for oil, acrylic, and watercolor. So I think it's actually just a nice opportunity to talk about both of these books, and you can decide if you're interested in one of them or both of them. So they both have this spiral binding, but this book has a hardcover. I don't remember if this one also comes in a hardcover. I know this is like a newer, more detailed edition. And this one is very kind of, it's just more substantial, but it also includes oil and acrylic, which for me, I don't paint in oils and I rarely paint in acrylics, so it's less relevant. However, okay, we'll take a look at this one after we talk about this one. So this book, I'll show you the contents. There's introduction, how to use this book, about color and color mixing, warm and cool colors, blacks and grays, relating to color, color in a painting, materials, color mixing recipes, and diluting colors. So basically they just explain the setup of the book here, which colors they used, how the swatches are made, and then there's a couple of pages about color and color mixing, warm and cool colors, so warm red, cool red, all very, very useful information, especially if you're starting out with watercolors. And then there are two pages here about blacks and grays. And this is kind of where my problem with this book is. So I'll just flip through to there's a bit about materials. I think she only uses Winsor & Newton paints. You know, that's fine. In such a book, there's absolutely no way you can include, you know, all brands, all pigments, all colors. Most serious brands have over 100 paints, and I think she chose a good representation of a color palette or the Winsor & Newton color range. However, I do have a serious problem with this book. I think it's very nice. You can see it starts with yellow and the pages are kind of color coded, so you can more easily find the mixes you're looking for. I think there is a section that is missing in this book, and if that was included, I would probably enjoy it a lot more. And that is mixing complementary colors, which is one of my favorite things to do. I think it's the most interesting mixes that you get, because I also mix a lot of my, you know, secondary and tertiary colors, so mixing your own oranges, your own greens. I do all of that a lot, but I would say those are probably the more predictable outcomes. I mean, when you look at this, okay, I can recognize that there are differences between, you know, this color and this color, but I also think that it's kind of a more predictable mix. And honestly, I mean, these are all so similar. I think on a painting it would be very, or I want to say like almost kind of insignificant, you know, if you were using this color or this color or this color. At least that's how my style works. I think this book might be helpful for people who really, really want to match a color to reality, or are extremely particular about, you know, a certain shade that they want to achieve, or have very like a beginner's knowledge of color mixing. So this is a good reference to help you through that. She does give at the beginning about the yellows, she gives a few tips. So there are like bright yellow tips, and then she has pale yellow tips, and I think she has also like natural earth yellow tips. And then you switch to the blues and the violets and the pinks and the reds, and there are no such tips, which is also a pity. And then with the greens, she also gives some tips. Mixing greens is, you know, everyone's has an opinion. And I like to mix my own greens, and I also like to use some greens straight from the tube because they're just really interesting. And yeah, and then we move kind of to the earth tones. And my biggest issue with this book is there is no chapter for mixing complements, and that is such a loss, because the kind of semi-neutrals and neutrals that you get when you mix yellow with purple and red with green and orange with blue, they are so beautiful and so special, especially if you're using granulating colors. Then you also have the separation of the color. And here this book only looks at blacks and grays as either mixing 3 primaries, so any combination of red, pink, yellow and a blue, or adding earth colors, or adding something like a black or a gray to other colors. And I think that's that's just a pity. Otherwise, besides that, I think it's a nice book. I don't know how much I'll actually use it in my daily painting. We'll see. She did include a chapter that I think is great for diluting colors. So some of them, she shows how they're diluted with water. And then, well, actually all of her colors, she shows how they look diluted with water, which I think is very helpful. And then there is also another section which is great on diluting them with Chinese white, which I'm, happy she included it, because I just added white to my palette. Not Chinese white, but still white. And it's just nice to get an idea, with just a glance, you can kind of see what happens to the colors. So yeah, all in all, I think the book is nice, but I think it's missing, for me, an important section. So I hope that maybe in the future she can add it, because that's a shame. And then when I looked here, like one of the first things that popped to me were, so I'll show you again the contents of this book. How to use this book: instructions, color theory, general color mixing for oil and acrylic, general color mixing for watercolor, and then you have the specific color mixing for portrait, color mixing for landscapes, color guidance index, again portraits, landscape, oil acrylic conversion chart. And let's just take a look how this looks. So they're kind of showing you how they measure the colors. There's a bit about mixing values, keeping color mixes fresh and lively. I think that's always an important topic. I talk about this in my classes also. Then you have different color schemes and general color mixing for oil and acrylic. Let's skip this part, but they show you color recipes, value recipes, and then graying with complements, which is exactly what I'm missing from this book. And I'll show you how it looks. So again, we are looking here at the acrylic and oil section, but this is what I'm talking about. These are, to me, the most interesting mixes. So graying with a complement is what you get when you mix, for example, cobalt violet and cadmium yellow pale. You get all these super interesting colors. Then you have here mauve with cadmium yellow medium again, and what do we have here? Cerulean blue with cadmium orange. So mixing complements, such an important tool in your color mixing belt. Now for watercolors, Actually, let's look. I don't know if they did this for watercolor, if they did the same thing. But so they have here color recipes, and I would say that to me, like looking at it like this, I find this book to be a bit easier for me visually to navigate, because I think if I wanted to use such a book, I think I would want to have like the mixes as the main image, and then I can look at how to make that mix. But I would want to just, you know, flip through the pages and say, ooh, that's a pretty color. How do I get this? And then they tell you this is just 100% cadmium red light with more water. So they have also water levels, water level 1, water level 2, and I think somehow this is easier to absorb to me. I mean, here it's like everything is kind of the same size, and these are smaller, these are much bigger. So I'm actually glad that I got this book, because it made me take this one out, and I think here there are really beautiful mixes. So what I want to see is if they included graying colors with complements. You can see they also have here more of the 3 color mixes. So I would say that this book just contains a lot more information, and it's set up in a more viewer-friendly format, in my personal opinion. So what did I want to look? They also have the mixtures of like blue like colors and their earth colors. So in the value recipe, this is also, I think it's a interesting setup, which can be very useful. This is, I would say, probably if you asked me like a year ago, I would say this is not that relevant for me, because I didn't necessarily like to use a lot of black or gray, but I have kind of decided to break all the rules of color mixing and to go with what I enjoy. So I have been using also black, also gray, also mixing my own super dark grays. I'm doing it all, and I just don't really pay attention to the rules. And this is it's set up in a really nice way. So you have here ivory black and lemon yellow, and you have lemon yellow with water, lemon yellow with gray, and then lemon yellow with black, and you can see the effect. Same is done here for cadmium red light, for cerulean blue. And then here, what I love is the complementary mixes. And so this book, I haven't looked in it for a couple of years. So this all turned out really well for me. So again, we have the complement mixes, which personally, I mean, I wish they dedicated more space in the room, in the book for this, but still you can get at least a good idea about a few of these colors. And then we have this section, which I think is really lovely for portraits, for example. So if you're focusing on watercolors, let's look. That's page 108. So you have here dark, warm tones, olive tones. This is super helpful stuff. It's almost embarrassing that I've had this book and I didn't use it. I think I got it really at the beginning of my kind of watercolor journey, and you know, it just got lost in between all my other books. So this is lovely. Then we have here Caucasian medium tones, Caucasian light tones, Where is the pale as a wall tone? That's probably me. And creating colors. You can create your own master recipes for a completely new variation of skin tones. Use the example here and create your own combinations. You can even create your original master recipe. By adding additional colors to the selected master recipe, the combinations are endless. Whatever that means. And now we have for landscapes. So again, this is probably, this looks like, you know, something that is not watercolor. So that's a pity. So this section has an index, which, let's look how it works, because if it does work, then that's a great thing that they include it. Okay, so colors are indexed by recipe unless page is noted. Recipe numbers are identical in both the oil and acrylic and watercolor sections. Watercolor only recipes appear in italics. Oil and acrylic only recipes appear in bold. Okay, great. So let's take, they have here a huge list for atmosphere. Let's look at autumn, for example. So I'm interested in the watercolors. Let's look. Browns, 313. So it's good that the numbers are the same for the colors. Yeah, so you can see they have your nice browns for autumn. Golds, 223. 223, yeah, that's a pretty gold. And then there are more, 270 here and 298. There we go. Yellow ochre. Okay, that's not bad. Greens, 54, 84. This is 84, that's a nice green. 54, also a nice green. And 382. So interesting, I wonder who decided which color was which for all of these. This one. That's a pretty mix. It's like a very, very earthy, muted green. Interesting. And then reds, 200. Okay, we won't go there, but they have so many ideas here. You can have like a whole list of blue, blonde, apple. I'm just like showing you an example. Cabbage. Cinder, cinnamon brown, cinnamon cream, clay, cloud colors, dawn, daybreak blue. I want to see what's that. I don't know how much this is. 107, daybreak blue, 107. Interesting. It's kind of a pretty minty color. It's with 50% Viridian and 50% Phthalo blue. So probably if you water down, if you have like Phthalo turquoise and you really watered it down, you'll get something like that also. Okay, so that is the index. That is actually, you know, it's potentially very, very helpful. If you're not sure, you can absolutely, you know, they have your blackberry. You want to paint a cherry. They show you wisteria, yam, pulp and skin. I love it. And then you have the index for the portraits and the index for landscapes, which I either missed it or they don't show the watercolor version. And then we have a color mixing grid. Now it gets kind of scientific, so it's probably not for me. But, you know, if you're super serious about color mixing, then you can use these. So I hope you saw they are transparency and can use them as a guide. All in all, I would say, I think this one is just made in a better format for me personally. It does include a lot of information that I don't need, so maybe only if you're doing like mixed media you'll think it's worthwhile to have this huge book. It's quite big. This one is a lot more manageable and light, but yeah, I think I'm gonna keep this one close by, and I'm not sure. I'll have to kind of look through this, but yeah, I have to say I was a little bit disappointed. I hate saying that. I'm really sorry. But I hope this video was helpful. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye.